This week's episode, we dive into the idea space behind cult movies and their production. Nathan T. Rex is on a quest to give his viewers the cinematic experience of their lives, no matter the cost. Will it bomb like his last movie, Cosmos? Find out in Rick Spears and James Callahan's The Auteur. So drop some Cobra Venom in your eye because you're listening to It's a Kind of Garbage podcast comic edition.
It's a kind of
This is a comic that I picked out that I wanted you to read. I thought it might be something you'd get a kick out of because it's a comic. It's a trashy comic.
Yep, there's boobs in it.
Oh, it gets worse as the series goes on. It's a comic full of nudity and violence and gore. And it's also just about, like, the crazy world of cult movie making and, like, the characters behind it. This comic stars a movie producer named Nathan T. Rex, who physically is designed to resemble movie director John Waters.
Yeah, that's who he reminded me of right away. I'm like,
Exactly.
Is this John Waters?
Yeah, so he looks like John Waters, who's already kind of like a cult hero in filmmaking.
Hero.
Yeah, John Waters is great.
Yeah, he's in The Simpsons, that one episode.
But I think some of the stories, or I guess some of his character traits are kind of designed after some of the trashier kind of behind the camera antics of what goes on in movie making. So he's kind of doesn't really care about his actors, doesn't care about his crew, doesn't care about his directors. He's all just about like getting his idea onto the screen, which is pretty funny just to see like all the relationships he destroys along the way doing that. What did you think of it?
There's a lot that I love about this book, and there's not too much that I didn't like. The art style is fantastic. The coloring is great. I like how they don't... the colorer is Luigi Anderson. He doesn't waste time. I guess it's not even his job to add detail to the background. It is a flat color. And sometimes with comics like that, when you get flat color background, like one tone, if the characters in the foreground aren't colored that well, like, it looks really bad. Like, it's almost like just a flat comic. But this one still pops because of the way it's colored, because there is detail and different shades in the characters. So yeah, I thought the story was fantastic so far. I only read the first, I guess, comic, because it's 5 single issues, right?
Yeah, this was... So the comic was a monthly comic released by Oni. It has 2 volumes, so I guess it's... As far as I can tell, it's 5 comics total, or 10 comics total. There was 2 volumes of 5 each. You said there might have been some sort of spin-off or one-off. I haven't...
That, or I just found something that wasn't connected that had a similar name.
Oh, fair enough. Which, yeah, when I actually did a little bit of research about this, I was trying to remember... I think I was trying to look up what year it came out, which was 2013-14. When Googling this, it kept bringing up an independent movie called The Auteur, which came out around the same time. The description of it is about, like, it's kind of about, like, the zany antics of, like, a movie producer. And I just kind of thought, oh my god, somebody turned this comic, like, someone actually tried to adapt this into an actual movie. And then I looked it up, and it's some, like, Amazon Prime comedy mockumentary. So it's not the same thing, but... Yeah, there's not too much I don't like about this comic. It's a really funny, fast-paced story. It's, like, very satirical and, like, takes a lot of jabs at Hollywood and movies, which I love. The art style in it is, like...
I don't want to say pop art, but, like, the colors are fantastic.
Oh, the color's fantastic. The art style is, like... it's, like, grotesque and unsettling to the point where, like, it's... like humorous, like it's trying to like show so much detail that, yeah, like you're right, like it almost looks like a cartoon, but it's a cartoon that focuses on some of like the finer details on things. So like all the characters have like wrinkles or bags under their eyes or like little beer bellies and stuff. Like it just really grounds everything, which I think is funny.
The thing that I really liked about it was the pacing was great. It jumps around a bit, and we'll get into that. It's like present day, like 1 week ago, then like later in time, or back to the present time, and it gives you a good sense of like what's happening, why it's happening, what happened in the past, and then like you get the current story. So like they guide you through it, and it's not confusing at all. Even though at first you're like, "What is going on?" and then you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." As you continue reading.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It starts off with the main character, Nathan T. Rex.
What does the T stand for? Theodore, probably?
I can't even remember, yeah. It starts off with him, like, basically swimming in idea space, showing, like, him trying to dive deep enough to find metaphorically, to find an idea good enough to put onto film. And he swims past all these examples of movies that have come out, all the while calling them like derivative and shit and uninspired.
Yeah, it's like every layer is different. So the Shallows is like cowboys, Vikings, army, and then superhero. Where it's like, that's the common denominator for movies.
Yeah, I get that. And then you go a little bit deeper. So you go a little bit deeper, and it kind of rips on some other stuff.
Oh, you have Jaws. I'm just like, there's Cody's shark.
My shark. You go a little bit deeper, and then he swims past because he calls like a great idea a white whale. It's just referencing like Ahab and Moby Dick, like like the one.
It's Moby Dick has the harpoon in it and everything.
Yeah, like he literally swims past Moby Dick, and then at the very bottom, once he gets deep enough, where he's going to find this great idea. His idea is a slasher movie called President's Day that takes place on a car lot during a President Day car sale, which is kind of a joke because like President's Day isn't really a holiday, but like in the States, if you'll see like car lots will always be like, oh, we're having our President's Day blowout. So it's just that. So his big idea that's going to like, I don't even want to say save his career because he doesn't even think his career's in the toilet.
No, he's like, no, everything's fine. People love my movies.
Yeah.
Which I can't even name a producer, like a well-known producer. They're like, oh, I love when this dude produces movies, other than Scott Mosier, who is Kevin Smith's producer for all of his movies. I don't really know any other producers off the top of my head.
There's a bunch. Well, there's like Joel Silver. He did a bunch. Like he was...
Batman?
That's Joel Schumacher.
Oh, well, yeah.
Who's a director. So yeah. Joel Silver did a bunch of movies. And then...
That name's familiar. I just have no idea
what his name. What's his name? Jerry Bruckheimer.
Oh, I know a producer.
Yeah, so Bruckheimer is famous for kind of doing a bunch of like early Michael Bay, like 90s, early 2000s action movies.
Who was the producer on the Superman movies? What's his name?
Donner.
Again?
No, that was the director.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name? The one that won the giant spider with the hair from the documentary.
Yeah, well, he just married
Barbra Streisand.
No, he was Barbra Streisand's hairdresser.
Didn't he marry her?
He married Pamela Anderson for like 3 days.
Oh, that's right.
Last year.
And he like gifted her a bunch of money, and then
yeah.
Fuck, I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter, but
like they're kind of
people know who we're talking about.
Yeah, so you kind of there are obviously producers out there that their name is kind of tied into like, well, if they're producing it, maybe it's something of quality or it's something that they feel should get put out. But now, and I think what the Auteur kind of pokes fun of is the shenanigans that now producers are kind of famous for.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the Superman guy who was famous for, he bought the rights to the Superman films when they were worth nothing. And now every time a movie studio goes to make a Superman movie, part of the contract is you have to get the rights from him, and he refuses to give you the rights unless he's somehow creatively involved in the movie.
I wonder if he lost them after.
No, he still has them.
Yeah, I remember watching not Superman Returns. I've never seen that. Was it Man of Steel?
Man of Steel.
Yeah,
so
his name was on Man of Steel. Fuck, I can't remember his name.
Look up his name right now because we'll talk about him for a minute because he's kind of one of the more famous guys.
I feel like his last name is Waters as well.
It's not Waters, I know that.
I just got it without even seeing it. It's John Peters.
Peters,
literally, as I'm
not
looking
John
it up,
Waters, John Peters.
John Peters, yeah.
So, yeah, the whole story with John Peters was Kevin Smith was hired to, what was it, Superman Lives?
Yeah.
Kevin Smith was hired.
Superman Reborn was the original name, and then Kevin Smith changed it to Superman Lives because he thought Fletch Lives was a really cool movie name.
Oh, God. So, that was going to be a Tim Burton movie as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we won't get into it too much because there's a bunch of...
you can watch multiple documentaries. I recommend The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened.
Yes.
Written and directed by John Schnepp. I'm going to say his name wrong. Yes. I apologize. He did pass away, unfortunately, but...
That is, as far as like going behind the scenes of like kind of a cult movie like Superman Lives, which never even came out, but is kind of infamous for its production troubles. It's a great documentary just talking about how it just kind of like how almost top heavy a movie like that can get, where it gets so big and so wobbly and there's like no foundation to support it, and it can't be made.
One of the big things I remember from it is John Peters has the Brainiac skull ship. Mm-hmm. The model, like, he took it. He found out they were shutting down production, and he's like, I'm just going to take this somewhere, and then he just never came back.
Yeah.
And, like, it's in his living room. He's like, I have the skull ship right there.
Yeah.
So, like, Schnepp was looking at it being like, oh my god, it's amazing. And yeah, the documentary, I bought it digitally because shipping to Canada was way too much for the Blu-ray, which I wish I had the Blu-ray, but it doesn't matter though.
So the story with it, after the original Christopher Reeves movies, the Superman movie franchise kind of got put on hold. At some point, John Peters got his hands on...
What movie killed the Superman franchise, and by what production company?
I believe it was Canon. Canon took it out behind the shed and murdered it.
The Quest for Peace, which I've never seen.
It's okay. The whole kind of story with it was the Superman franchise was struggling. John Peters comes by and picks up the movie rights to it for cheap. Superhero movies start to take off again. All of a sudden, why are we not making a Superman movie with, like, why are we not making a Superman film? He's like kind of the grandfather of modern superheroes.
I believe John Peters worked on Batman, the first one, as, was it like Tim Burton's assistant, I think, as well, or something weird. He was on that set.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and Returns.
So basically, this Superman Lives movie, he refuses to sign off on it unless he starts getting some sort of creative input. So now all of a sudden you have John Peters, who's a movie producer, in kind of like the writing booth, or like the writing room, with the screenplay writers, and all of a sudden he's throwing out like, you just have this crazy guy yelling concepts at you. Which, if you watch An Evening with Kevin Smith, who was one of the writers, he talks about how John Peters would just be in the back of the room going, he fights a polar bear, and they're like, why? And he's like, polar bears are the most dangerous mammals on the face of the earth. Superman, to show how tough he is, he needs to fight them. And then they go, okay, what else? And then they're like, okay, so for the big finale, he's going to fight Brainiac. And then John Peters just goes, Brainiac's a giant spider. And they go, why? And he goes, because pound for pound, spiders are the most dangerous animals on the face of the earth. Like, if there was a giant spider, it'd be unstoppable. So you kind of think that Hollywood might have wised up or stopped working like this. And then you watch Man of Steel, which is the 2000 Superman movie, and there's a polar bear in it, and Superman fights a giant spider-like alien machine, and you go, nope, you still have to play by John Peters' rules to make a Superman movie.
Thankfully he didn't, like, I know John Peters wanted him to, like, wrestle a polar bear, so thank God he didn't get to do that. But yeah, there's a polar bear just walking, like, by the Fortress of Solitude. You're like, oh, there's the fucking, there's the polar bear.
And you know, like, full well, like, that polar bear is there just to, like,
appease
be like,
him.
John, like, there it is, there's a polar bear. You got to see the polar bear. So it kind of rips on that a bit with how Nathan's character isn't the director, he isn't the screenplay writer or anything, but he's running around like shouting out reshoots, and he wants characters to change on the fly and everything. But then you also kind of have, he's actually in this comic, Harvey Weinstein.
I know, I saw him and I was like, that's fucking Harvey Weinstein right there.
Yeah.
I know it.
So you have Harvey Weinstein kind of playing the hardball. He's the son of Nathan's old studio, like the
studio head.
The studio head. It's his son who's now running the studio. Which, funny enough, for a movie that's all about or a book that's all about like inside jokes in Hollywood, and I'm wondering if they thought it was too on the nose or they didn't want to risk getting sued. But there isn't much talk of
sexual assault.
Yeah, which by this point it was kind of almost like
It was an open secret.
Yeah, like everyone knew about it, but instead of doing that,
not Ben Affleck or Matt Damon. They had no idea.
Yeah, they only made how many movies with them?
Yeah. Well, even Kevin Smith said, like, I had no idea.
I think that's kind of like a toothless defense, just because it's like,
yeah.
well, I had no idea, and it's like, but everyone knew.
I think Matt Damon said it, like, I always heard the rumors, but I never saw anything. Well, I never had a conversation with Courtney Love.
Yeah. Well, I think it's weird. Well, it was everyone. Like, I can't remember what the actress's name was, but there was an actress who auditioned for, I think it was Lord of the Rings. And then he had, I think Weinstein had some sort of run-in with her. And then when they were going to cast her, Weinstein was just like, I don't like her. Like, obviously...
She wouldn't suck my dick.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So it kind of... Anyways, there's a million horror stories about this guy. We won't get into all of them. But it almost does reference it, because later... I don't know how, I can't remember where issue 1 ends, but later on, he kind of runs into, he sees a girl on set that he kind of falls in love with, and...
That's right at the end of this issue.
Yeah.
Like, who's that lady with that bubble butt? And you're just like, I need her.
It doesn't get, it's still like a problematic relationship, but it's not to the point of like, she works for him or she's trying to be in his movie and then he's exerting like power over her.
She's just someone walking by and he's just like, I want to fuck that. Get it for me.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah, like he's, very much like an id person throughout like this entire book. Like I think like it opens up with him being resuscitated from like going into like a...
Yeah, he's going into like a dream state where he can find his muse.
And then
he has a needle sticking out of the middle of his forehead.
Yeah, like he's just, like he's high out of his mind.
And that's where the snake venom comes in.
Yes. They're like, it kind of, later on in the book too, it'll start riffing on kind of Hunter S. Thompson and the kind of like exploits of like, I don't know what I'm going to create, but I'm going to do so many drugs that like I'm going to get absolutely out of my brain and then come up with something to write about, and like that'll be truth. Like stepping out of your own person will kind of help you come up with seeing something for what it is, which I get, but like it's funny because instead of him writing about the truth or instead of him doing anything insightful, like he gets absolutely out of himself, and then the concept he comes up with is like a slasher movie where the murderer wears a mask. Like it's the most derivative shit in the world. Yeah,
like you said at the intro, he starred in a space movie, Cosmos, which failed, but they had pre-filmed all 3 of them, and they cost, what was it, $500 billion, I think?
It was $500 million.
Was it $500 million?
Which is funny, because...
I was going to say, that's not that bad.
Well, that's what's wild, is reading this now and seeing that somebody made a movie.
3 movies.
Well, made 3 movies, filmed them simultaneous, and the production cost was $500 million.
It's like, that's nothing.
They filmed 2 Avengers movies back to back, and I think their production costs were probably close to $500 million to do 2 of them. And then you also have, like, what are some other ones?
Twilight?
Not Twilight. They did the Universal Dark... Like, or the
Dark Universe, which was what, Mummy and...
It was Mummy, Dracula, Wolfman, Invisible Man.
Wolfman wasn't part of it, was it?
Yeah.
Was it Gene Hackman in Wolfman?
No, it was Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, I think.
What did I say?
Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Which
I won't even comment on why you went Gene Hackman.
I'm thinking of Anthony Hopkins. That's who I meant to say, not Gene Hackman. This book, who does he go see? He goes to see an old man in a mansion. He's like in a drunken stupor. He drives his car into the guy's gate, and then he goes to see this guy being like, I need help.
Yeah.
Who was that?
That's the studio head.
Is that the dad of Harvey Weinstein?
That's Harvey Weinstein's dad.
I did not pick that up. Yeah, and he just tranks him, and then he falls asleep. Oh, he stole his Viagra, and he has like this Viagra boner.
He's got like, what's he call it? He calls it like
Spanish fly.
Oh yeah, it's a Spanish fly, but he calls it like Mexican Rohypnol or something. So like he takes it, immediately passes out with an erection, and then he just leaves a business card on his erection, and he's like, call this guy.
One of the things I liked is while they're on the movie set, he's running away from the assistant of Harvey Weinstein because he doesn't want to talk to him, and they run through this great like a set, but it's all these characters from different movies.
Yes.
And I'm like looking at them like, oh, this is great. And I have it in front of me right now. You see a Teletubby, you see Godzilla, or a Reptar from Rugrats, because they look nearly the same. You see what might be a RoboCop, Superman for sure, and then there's a Mummy, and Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman rides by.
I was like, Pee Wee, look at him go.
Look at him. Yeah, some of the
That's where you see the booty.
Yeah, he sees a big black butt. He's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's what he says. It's like, what was it? I never believed in love at first sight until I saw her big black ass. And I'm like, I don't know if I put that in there, but okay, it's your book.
Yeah. Well, like I said...
And Rick, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it's very much like the Nathan character is like, just like follows his id. Like his like very, I don't want to say animalistic, but like it's like very much like it's like needs driven. Like everything he does is just like consume, and like you see that with like the way that like he treats women and the way he does drugs and drinks, and it's just like there's no thought into the future. When he sees something he doesn't like on TV, he just picks up the TV and chucks it out of his apartment window.
Yeah, which that was the other thing, because when you're first like reading this book at the beginning, you don't know what his character does as his job, because at first I'm thinking, oh, he's the star of the movie.
Yeah. And
then they're like interviewing him like on the TV as he's watching it. It's like him with a beard and like he looks like a homeless person, and they're asking him questions. And I don't remember the last time that a producer was blamed for a movie falling, like just bombing at the box office.
Yeah. It's
always been like the director, maybe the writer, or like the actors, but like a producer. I'm like, it's so strange that that idea never came across to me. And I'm not bashing it. It's just, it just felt
fair enough. Well, I think now we live in kind of an era of like celebrity directors, where a lot of people follow directors are almost now as big as stars as the actors.
And I would say this generation's big one would be Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, everyone goes wild over it. Well, but there's a bunch.
Prestige was great. His other movies,
Yeah, like we could get in, we could get into that at some point, but you have guys like James Gunn.
Yeah.
Who just kind of had a couple of, not that he doesn't deserve any praise or success he has, but like they talk about him now like he's just this, like he's a celebrity now. And then same with...
Well, James Gunn made great movies.
It was
Guardians.
Guardians really... he just kind of went to another planet.
Super is still one of my favorite movies.
And then you have who is the guy who did the Thor movie of the Taika Waititi guy?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen any of the Thor movies.
Well, he did that. He just kind of put a different spin on it and made it more of like...
I saw Jojo Rabbit. That was good.
Yeah, but like that's what I mean though. It's like he's a director, and then in Jojo Rabbit he casts himself to play like
Hitler because nobody else probably wanted to. They're probably like, I think I'm good. It's like, no, but you can make it funny. It's like, I don't think you can make Hitler funny, but then he did, and it was really funny.
Yeah, like and that's a good movie. But yeah, just like that, or there's other. You could go on and on. Like Quentin Tarantino, like has his followers that no matter how problematic he gets, like people always just seem to be like everyone seems to trash Tarantino until he comes out with a movie, and then everyone's like, oh, he's the best of the best. And then
even his, I've seen a few. They're fine.
I think they're good movies, but
did he did Dusk Till Dawn?
No, that was
or is he just in it?
He's just in it.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah. But you have like he comes out with a movie and then he openly says like I have no desire to make another movie for years. And then he just kind of is like a background guy in Hollywood, like he openly kind of like defiantly says like I don't have anything in production. I'm not in a rush to make another movie. I do things when I want to do them. And then it just seems like for 5 years, everyone talks about how he treats women like shit. He's friends with Harvey Weinstein. His portrayals of like race and stuff like that in his movies are like incredibly problematic. He said he was going to make Once Upon a Time in Hollywood about the Manson murders. And then Sharon Tate's family like flipped out about it, being like, he's not going to tackle it seriously. Like it's going to be incredibly insensitive. And like you have for like 5 or 6 years people doing nothing but trashing him, and then the movie comes out and wins a ton of awards, and then everyone goes, yeah, Tarantino, he's the best in the business. Like and it's like, you guys, everyone just spent 5 years trashing that. I think that's kind of, And relating it back to the book, you have our main character just coming off of like a complete trash movie. But if you can make a good movie, that's how fast public opinion can turn.
Yeah, all you need to do is you
like
have a
one
lemon,
good movie.
You make a success, and you're like, yeah, you're back in everyone's good books.
Yeah.
Look at Ryan Reynolds. He had, what was it? R.I.P.D. something.
R.I.P.D. Yeah.
I can't remember what the whole.
It was Ghost Cops. The premise was, what if there was Ghost Cops?
But yeah, it was Men in Black, but ghosts.
Yeah.
And then before that, he had Green Lantern. So he had 2 horrible movies.
I'm sure he had more than 2.
This is true. Buried was good. But anyways, he had those. He was getting no work, and then he leaked the Deadpool work trailer, I guess. And that's how he got back into being a big star, which is good. But that's the whole thing. He was like, nobody wanted to work with him, much like Jessica Alba. There's nothing that they can bring to you because their star has now fizzled out. They had too many bombs, but then he got that attention on Deadpool and they made that movie and he's a huge star again.
Yeah, which, I don't know. Like, I still think that, I don't think he leaked the Deadpool stuff.
Oh, that was marketing.
Yeah, like, that's all marketing. I think he's just kind of a charismatic enough person that they were like, we're going to say it was leaked, and then we're just going to put the camera on him because he's charismatic enough to, like, kind of talk people into being like, oh, it is really, like, I swear, guys, it's really good if you just give it a chance, and I know the fans want, and which I get, like, that's, I can't, as kind of like cringy as it is, I can't blame them for doing it because like you have to do what you have to do to get a movie made, and if the movie's half made, it's one of those things where it's all business on the studio's half, where at the last possible minute a studio can say we're not making the movie, or financially it doesn't make sense right now, or the only time slot we have to release this movie is against Avengers or Lord of the Rings or like whatever insane huge movies coming out. Obviously the studio's going to be like, look, we can save ourselves $100 million by not promoting this movie and just put it to bed.
Yep.
Which I get. It's a business.
Yeah. So in the Auteur, the scene I want to talk about is the one where it caught my attention because it's at the strip club, because every single, I guess, producer needs to go to a strip club, and we get to see a nun just dancing on, I was going to say a table, dancing on...
Yeah, she's dancing on a stage. Well, the strip club is called Vatican.
Yeah.
The strip club's called the Vatican.
So I guess all the strippers are nuns then?
Yeah, so the whole gimmick to this, it's kind of a funny joke. The whole gimmick is like, it shows him going to the Vatican with like the neon sign outside, so it's just like this trashy strip club. And he's just talking to, like, he's just throwing money and talking to a nun, but, like, it's supposed to resemble confession. So he's just, like, confessing his sins to this nun while throwing money at her, and she's just not listening, being like, yeah, baby, oh, that's too bad, and just getting naked. And it's funny. Like, it's...
Off to the side, the doctor that gave him, like, the snake venom before puts some in a bottle, which is in a bag, and then he drinks from it, and that's where he gets his muse for his movie.
No, it's what he does, because the paying attention to the drug stuff in this is funny. It's model airplane glue.
Oh, is that what it is?
And he because yeah. So I don't know if it still is like this, but model airplane glue.
Well, Huff and glue. That's just.
But that's like the glue they mean is like, I remember when I was a kid, there was this special glue you would use to build like model jets and cars.
Like, don't do it in a well ventilated area.
Yeah, and it was like, use this in an open ventilated area, because when you smelled it, it had kind of like, it was like that magic marker, that permanent marker smell where you're like, oh man, when I smell this, my brain tingles. It's like that, you know, times 100. So like, I don't know if it's still like that or if they ever made it kid friendly.
And companies like Crayola thought it was a good idea to have scented markers down the road. This one smells like grape and my brain tingles.
Yeah, you can smell this purple marker because it smells like grapes, but that big black marker that like your teacher uses for whatever, don't smell that one.
No. Why? Does it smell like licorice? I don't like licorice.
You smell it, then your eyes just see weird colors. You're like, wee!
Yeah,
he's huffing model glue.
It's like he gets his muse of Abe Lincoln killing everybody, including himself, and then that's where he sees an actual killer on the TV while he's holding a fish, being like, I found what I need. I need a motherfucking murder consultant. So he needs a consultant, and that's how the first issue ends.
Okay. Just before we leave the model glue, I'm trying to remember. It's a Spike Lee movie or a Spike Lee joint.
Yes. Not to be confused with the Spike Lee film, which I can't remember what one that was, but go ahead.
It's one of the older Spike Lee ones. It's not Do the Right Thing. Shit, I'll look it up.
I think I've seen one of his movies, which is Black Klansman. That's the only one I'm aware that I saw.
No, it's an older one. Shit, it's about the one about the kid growing up in Brooklyn, which I know everyone's going to be like, that's 6 Spike Lee movies is about a kid growing up in Brooklyn. But it's, the scene I remember, and the scene that reminded me of it was, there's a scene in it where the kid's walking home and a bunch of older kids are talking to him and they're like, hey, have you ever like huffed glue? And he's like, no. And I'll just never forget the shot. Like, it's literally glued to my brain. To get the shot, the kid is standing on like a genie boom. So like a lift. And these other kids are talking to him. So they're shot from the waist up. And they stick the bag in the kid's face and hold his head to the bag so he can't do anything but breathe in the glue vapors. And then when they pull the bag back, the kid's just like standing there like dead out, like just completely dead-eyed, like just not focusing on anything. And then they lift the genie boom, so all of a sudden you get the illusion of like this kid just takes off and starts flying, and all the other kids and like the street in the background just floats away. And it's like, I just remember it as like just being this great shot to show like being what like high on glue or lightheaded.
And you're like, I gotta do that.
Well, you just look at it and you're like, I get like, this kid is hot. Like, this kid is literally like, as the viewer, you're getting the same sensation of like, this kid is like literally leaving the planet right now. He's so high. And I just always remember that being a really, really great shot. Cause like this comic, this comic does it because I think in a comic book, as a medium, you can do all these great things where you can take a character and throw them and treat them like a cartoon character. Mm-hmm. And you can, like in this, when he gets an idea, when he sees the murderer starts like killing everyone in the strip club. And then he just looks at him and he says, do me next. Yeah. He goes, do me next. And he just like cranks an axe right through his head and cuts his head in half. The whole time he's like smiling, going, yes, like this is the idea. And I think in a comic book, you can do something so absurd and so over the top and so artistic, and it comes off that great. Like, that sequence is amazing.
Yeah.
But sometimes in movies, to portray that a character is high, it's so fucking bad. Yeah. Like, some of them are so bad. And I think the worst I can think of, the worst I've ever seen, is there was a movie called Freddy vs. Jason where one of the characters like smokes a bong and then like falls asleep, and then while Freddy's in his dreams while he's high, Freddy's like a giant caterpillar holding a bong, and then like Bob Marley music's playing in the background, and like the caterpillar's just like, hey man, trip out. And it's like, the guy smoked pot. Like, he's not on acid or mushroom, like he's not doing hallucinogenic drugs. Like, he smoked pot. He just has like a body buzz right now. Like, what the fuck is this? So I think a good way to portray it is like, you can do like the Spike Lee way where you show an actual physical representation of like a character getting high and like his problems falling to the wayside. Or you can do it in a very over the top artistic way like the Auteur, where like his idea of a murderer literally breaks into his dream space and just starts murdering everything, and then he's witnessing his idea take form, and he's just like, yes, this is it. Or you can do it the Freddy and Jason way, which is just like, hey, drugs, am I right?
So you bought this, you own this.
Yes.
Obviously you're going to recommend it. I recommend it as well. I'm excited to read issue 2, 3, 4, 5 and then jump into volume 2, which we'll probably tackle later on a future episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and you're picking good comics, and I almost feel bad for the comics that I always pick, but not really.
No, this is the thing is, you go out and buy the wildest comics.
Well, this is pretty fucking wild, too.
No, this is wild, but like, this is an executed concept from start to finish, and it works. And the comics you buy are just like, somebody turn a shit movie into a comic, and it's just, and it's a creative team trying to save Like, what was there? You bought a Steven Seagal.
Oh, yeah, that cover is fucking brilliant.
The cover's amazing, but
Yeah.
you can just tell, like, whoever got that, like, that's not, like, they didn't run into an editor's office being like, can I please do my Steven Seagal idea? Like, they went to work one day and their editor was like, here's your project for the next 28 days.
Yeah.
Next month, by the next new comic, or the first new comic book day of next month, we want to have the Steven Seagal comic book on newsstands. And this guy just goes, I'm getting paid, right? Like, I get money for this, right? If you're not afraid of more adult-themed comics, by so I mean like profanity, nudity, gore, violence, and you have more than a passing interest in like kind of the stories behind how movies get made, I think the Auteur would be right up your alley, and I would recommend it.
So for my top 10, I am going to put this as my new number 5.
This is going to be my new number 8. So I'm going to put this right below Accident Man and right above Homeless G-Man.
On our next Comic Edition episode, we are going to read a zine by Josh Rosen. It's a fictional wrestling book called Wrestle Club. I picked this up at Beguiling, a few years ago now. We actually met Josh at TCAF. Yeah,
the Toronto Comic Art Festival,
yeah,
which was cancelled this year.
For obvious reasons. Yeah, was that last year we met him?
Yeah, it was in the summer.
Yeah, in passing, like, we didn't have a full-blown conversation. Well, we talked to him. Obviously, he has no idea who we are. But I bought some prints off of him, and I cannot find them right now. I was looking for them, like, where the fuck did I put these prints? Because they're all, they screen printed, I think he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were screen printed, and he was like, yeah, they're all offset, so they're all going to be a little different. So yeah, take a look, and I'm like, oh, I want this one with, like, a boot print on it, because I think, yeah, he must have stepped on it by accident, because they were on the floor. I'm like, yeah, that's unique. It has a footprint on it. So yeah, I grabbed that, and that's what we're going to be doing next episode. And
I think next episode we'll talk about Wrestle Club, but we'll also talk about that time we went to TCAF.
Oh yeah, we went to TCAF, yeah.
Because I think I'm trying to remember some of them, but I remember we had a really good time, but we met a lot of really weird people and saw a lot of really weird shit.
Yeah, I'll end it by saying when we saw Josh, he was in the BO building.
Oh my god, yes.
But yeah, thanks for listening, and tune in next week. Next week, I can't remember what it is, but yeah, be sure to tune in.
Just tune in. It'll be something.
As always, you can find us online through our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram, both at A Kind of Garbage. You can also email us at akindofgarbage@gmail.com with any questions or comments you may have. Be sure to check us out at akindofgarbage.com, where you can find links to our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube pages, as well as our Patreon page at patreon.com/akindofgarbage, where you can get access to our private Discord channel and Patreon exclusive podcasts. Thank you again for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time. So I went comic book shopping in Oshawa, like I always do, during when it's in a red zone. I picked up a bunch of comics. One comic I was really excited to grab was Death's Head #1. This is not to be confused with what I thought it was, which was Marvel's Death's Head.
And not to be confused with Marvel's Death Head 2.
the UK Marvel publication.
This looks awesome, man. The cover's amazing.
Yeah, I really love the cover for it. He reminded me of... I can't remember. Like, the head is like a skull. Like, I guess the mouth is a skull. But as far as I can tell for this issue of Death's Head, there is no #2 issue. He only appears on the cover because you follow a police officer detective who is killed and then brought back as Death's Head in the end. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the art's great.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, like, I had fun with it. I'm big on, like, sometimes there's too many words in the comic. But yeah,
so that's a whole thing is it says Death's Head #2.
I don't think it came out.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think everyone now has heard the phrase like show don't tell, and some comics are an amazing medium where you can show so much, but sometimes I think one of the problems is you obviously need dialogue, and like when you read a comic that's which reminds me, I have another comic recommendation after this, which is
awesome.
a dialogue free comic.
Oh yes, my favorite.
Which is
pictures.
Which is all art.
There are some great dialogue free comics where
for sure
you're telling yourself the story. It's almost like a Where's Waldo, where in Waldo, every single group of people are doing their own thing and you can create a story for it.
Yeah.
Where, dialogue-free comic books are great, but this one was kind of heavy where I'm like, it reminded me of Age of Apocalypse when I was reading that, which I think I mentioned before, where it's just like fucking Apocalypse standing there, just like
bricks.
4 inches of dialogue. And I'm like, oh my god, just fucking fight the X-Men.
And that's something that like I find is sometimes I'll just speed read through a comic. Like I'll go through comics I really like, but then sometimes I'm just like, look, like this isn't a book. I get that like they're comic books, but they're not traditional like novels. So when you're relying that heavily on dialogue to tell a story, you are taking away from the fact that you have an art team right there willing to show you what's going on. Which I think 2 good examples are, there's a Brandon Graham comic called Prophet, which is all about somebody like waking up in space and then finding out there's like alternate versions of themselves that's been cloned to be used as like different soldiers in like this long extinct space war between all these different alien races. And you get it, like reading it, you get everything that's going on, and there's not a ton of dialogue. But then I think one of the last things that I read where I was just like, I have to put this down, was it was some of the Jonathan Hickman, I think it was his run on Avengers, where it was talking about like alternate realities and going to different planets and all this other stuff, and it was just bricks of text, and I'm like, show me, don't explain to me that they're going to a different planet or that this is an alternate reality. Show me a picture of a slightly different Wolverine, and I'll get that's an alternate Wolverine. Like, don't explain to me, oh, this is Wolverine 623 from blah blah. It's like, don't tell me all this shit. Like, I don't need to know this. Just show me that it's him, but it's not him. But the comic I was going to recommend and have us read is a comic called Loud by Maria Lovett, which the entirety of the comic takes place in a nightclub where the music's so loud you can't hear what people are saying.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And then there's kind of like, I think there's 3 or 4 stories going on at once, but like some of the stories are about like vampire hitmen, where it's just showing it and you understand just by the visuals. But that got recommended to me by somebody and I read it, and I thought this was very creative and awesome way to show and not tell somebody a story.